Well,
Hello, Don. Fourth time lucky. We tried to record this podcast for a while now, and either holidays or events or technical issues got in our way, but we made it. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. New dojo, new advertising campaign, new people. It seems to be working, so I am happy. And
Good.
I forgot to send you a message. The seminar is go ahead.
Go ahead.
We've got
Okay.
5 people. So we cover the venue. If
Okay.
anybody else turns up, that's gonna be awesome. If
Excellent.
if you're still on the fence, if you want to go for our seminar on Naihanchi and Tensho, uh, make up your mind now.
Come along and learn something that you can take into your dojo, put into your own practice, put into your teaching. Be very worthwhile.
Hmm. I've seen that you've been very busy recording your syllabus.
Yeah. In the process of trying to refine it, really, as much as anything, the filming process more than the technical side, because the technical side is pretty well established. But so a bit of peanut butter. Sorry, I just had a quick bite of lunch. Get the
It's
peanut
okay.
butter off. Yeah, so filming bits and pieces of the syllabus. It'll all go online eventually, using Vimeo as a platform at the moment, and I intend to stay with them certainly for the time being, see how that goes. Um, yeah, and just it'll be good because you know what it's like. What we do, there's a lot of depth to what you do, and ultimately you can't cover everything in one session. So you've
Yeah.
got to give people access to information that will allow them to sort of build on their own understanding, and then they can refine it when they come into the dojo. Yeah, so that's the purpose of it.
Um. Cool. So you're not changing recently because for most people the syllabus is evolve and you're much longer than I am into the teaching in martial arts. So you kind of get your syllabus already set, or you still tweaking it and
It's always being tweaked. Syllabus, as we learn more, we do more. We improve on what we do. That information then has to be passed on to the people that we teach. So it's always evolving, but it's a good baseline. So again, we can't cover everything on everything because one technique could fill up an entire seminar. So
Hmm.
you've got to give the basic shape of movement and let people experiment with it, and adapt it and make it their own. Really.
Yeah, I over years kind of withdrawing from the set syllabus. So I'm kind of using it more as guidance because, as you said, there's such a broad spectrum of applications for a given move that is just getting pages and pages and pages and people doing their own ways. I'm fortunate that most of my students are coming from different arts, so they already kind of either higher belt grades or a black belt in other system, or at least had a few years of experience. So
Yeah.
it's kind of building on their skills and try to create something unique for them instead of copying me. So I kind of using the syllabus as a guidance. Is that kind of similar stuff what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you teach a technique, particularly if you're teaching to beginner, you're looking at mechanical movement. You're looking at this is the structure. Then they have to understand how that movement is applied through the whole body. And then we have to understand how that movement is applied against another body. And we develop an understanding of the connections through doing that practice. So the syllabus that we're filming is pretty much, rather than actually going into breaking the movement down as an individual technique, is to look at them in application or a possible application, because as we know, there's a myriad of possibilities when it comes to using the techniques.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's part of the fun as well. So part of the research and development from my point of view is if I'm filming the syllabus, that makes me a lot more involved and a lot more analytical, and I have to think about how that information is put across, because putting the information across in the dojo is actually different to putting it across on screen.
Very
So
different.
it's quite a good learning experience for me as well to do that, and it's just it helps keep the interest peaked a little bit, I think, to throw that sort of thing into the mix every so often, just to refilm it. And again, once we've done it, probably start from the beginning again and just redo it. It's something that will keep on going on and on and on.
Yeah. Are you kind of moving away? Again, I'm just kind of processing what I think about the syllabus and like to pick up your brain about it because then I can review my thoughts and maybe change them. Are you kind of moving away from the air kihon that you're standing doing stuff? Because usually when you look on syllabuses, it is mostly shown with a punch it in the air, the kick look like that, kind of that movement technical demonstration. But I've seen that everything you're recording is a pair work. And are you kind of moving from training? Myself, I only as a kihon using kata. Everything
Yeah,
else is in a pair. So I was thinking, actually watching your video, that actually my previous recording of the syllabus should be changed and starting from scratch and kind of copying you that show it with a partner always instead of doing a air movement.
yeah. I think certainly from the point of view of doing recordings, um, by doing it with a partner, you're showing context,
Hmm.
albeit within a very narrow framework, but you're showing context. It's not just movement for the sake of movement. So that's why we do the partner work. The partner work is to give you a much steeper learning curve. If you're just learning shapes against nothing, you're doing shapes to thin air. There's a limited amount of improvement. If we can learn with a partner and then take that information away when we're training on our own, and we can go through the drills as if we were training with a partner, I think there's, again, just gives you a much stronger concept of the movement, the connections, that context, which is all important in the way that we train. We
Mm.
have to train with intent. We have to train with purpose. Every drill we do has to have a reason. We have to have a reason for doing the drill, not just for the sake of doing the drill. It's not necessarily the case that every new student will understand the purpose of the drill, particularly initially, but it's important that the teacher understands the purpose of the drill. Otherwise, we end up going in the wrong direction. We just teach stuff for the sake of teaching it. And if
Mm.
it's not taking us where we want to be, it's taking us the wrong way. And we
Mm.
sort of get there by accident then almost. But there needs to be this process of understanding where we're trying to take somebody and how we're going to get them there.
Mhm.
Take reroutes if we need, so it's a bit like a sat nav. If one pathway is blocked, we take an alternative pathway, which is why, when I teach people, rather than talking in terms of specific techniques, I try to emphasize the idea of pathways and the idea of lines of best fit, so that we understand the pathway from practicing the mechanics, maybe as a single or solo drill, but then we have to understand the concept of putting that into a partner-based training. So solo drills, we know from our own experience and early days of training, is that it's all about precision of movement.
Mhm.
Precision of movement. Now, that precision of movement is no less precise when you apply it, but it has to be more flexible.
Mhm.
We can't work the drills exactly the same as the Keon when we're doing the application work, because distance changes, intent changes, the attack changes. So therefore, what we do as a response, yes, we use the same pathway, but we are going to make it fit. So we go for that line of best fit.
Mm.
Term we sometimes get thrown around is path of least resistance. I can't remember who said it, but it said path of least resistance is also the path of least impact. And if we
Mhm.
want to stop something quickly, we need to be able to do it decisively and hit pretty hard, really. So that's the purpose. If we give people the context by doing a partner-based drill, then they can take it away and they can refine the solo drill. So the partner work should influence their solo practice, and their solo practice should influence their partner work.
Mhm.
And the point of doing it as we are in the syllabus is we want to build up the sequence in layers. So there's
Mhm.
always working on that fundamental, you know. So basics are really important, but basics permeate everything that we do. So as you get better, you're not necessarily going to go back to the very beginning of doing your basic techniques. Those should be natural movements to you. Doesn't
Mhm.
mean you stop trying to improve them, but they become part of a bigger picture. Uh, I think one of the worst things we can think of is called basics, beginners techniques. Basics are basics because they're fundamentals. They're fundamental exercises in helping us develop a better understanding of movement, a better connection through the body, better power generation. They're healthier because we're moving more efficiently. So therefore, there's less strain and wear and tear on the body. So all of this sort of comes out of that partner work and understanding of the partner work. You know, a
Mhm.
structure's weak. If you're working with a partner and they push against you, you will know immediately if your structure is weak. You'll know where it's wrong. You know, if it gives in your back or you feel it in your knees or it uproots you. You know, all these things are indicating that we need to go back to the drawing board and
Mhm.
work from the ground up again.
So what would be your kind of percentage of focus when a new person? I think you are fortunate as I am that with your kind of experience and stuff, you've got more people purposefully seeking your knowledge, and they have some background in the martial arts, karate or something. So they pass that stage of the beginners. They are
Yeah.
somewhat advanced. Um, but what would be your percentage of time spent on air mixing versus a partner work in a lesson that the beginners who come in first time in the dojo?
Well, first thing we don't do is we don't do line work in the traditional sense. We don't march up and down the hall. That
Mhm.
doesn't mean we don't do a version of line work. But if we're doing line work or we're doing a specific drill, we will do that drill, we'll do that exercise, we'll do that movement pattern, we'll do that sequence, we'll do that combination. And then we'll pause and we'll think about it. We'll release any unnecessary tension. We'll go back to the starting position. It's okay. Now it's time to do it again. So rather than just keep on marching forwards, building up tension more and more and more as we go, we have a situation where, okay, I'm going to do it once. I'm going to shake out any unnecessary tension. Then I'm going to do it again. So I
Mhm.
have a chance to think about what I'm doing, analyze what I'm doing, and then hopefully improve on what I'm doing. Get a better understanding, not just mentally, not just an academic understanding, but you start to feel the technique. The
Mhm.
emphasis, even from day one, is that you want to feel what you're doing. There's a connection through the body, and that's not always evident. And it's
Mhm.
not always evident, not just in beginners. You know, when we changed, if an experienced person tries to take on board a new drill, often we go back to being really clumsy with the movement. It takes a while to build up
Yeah.
that movement pattern and progress with it. So yeah, so we don't sort of just drill the technique. And if you do a partner exercise, you say you've got to be questioning all the time. You've got to say, is it working? Is it why is it not working? You know, if you're doing a partner drill and you just keep on doing it over and over again, and you're ignoring the fact that there are numerous weaknesses within the structure, then you're just training bad technique. The reason we do partner work is so that we get immediate feedback and we can work on improving the structure and improving the technique, but improve our understanding.
Do you find that at least I'm noticing that from mine, and I spoke with the Somerset Applied Karate. They've noticed the same thing when they move more to a partner work from that kind of training the movements. They there's not quality. The aesthetics of a movement are changing. So we stop fitting into the brackets of, oh, this is a karate. Look at the beautiful technical skills,
Mm,
but we're going more towards the kind of combat sports when is the functionality of the technique better, but the structure in the air looks off because you
right.
don't have time for that crisp movements, but you know what you're doing. Did you find that in your school as well?
Well, I don't think there's any reason you can't have a combination. You can't combine the two. If we think about impact work, and then as a mirror to that, we hold up the Keon exercise. We can see that the Keon sort of is the full expression of the movement, because as we know, from point A to point B, most of the good stuff's happening on the way from point A to point B. So in application, you rarely get to see the full expression of a movement. You might get somewhere near, but it's not going to be the full expression. But that doesn't mean in your head you still haven't got that image of the full expression of the movement. So I think it's part and parcel of the process. Do I mind if things look scruffy? Not really. When we're doing application work, I'm more worried about balance, posture, correct positioning, applying what we refer to as the rules of combat. So as I say, the unbalancing, moving to a position of advantage, multiple strikes. These are the things that are going to make the techniques workable. But it doesn't mean you lose sight of the full expression. The example is, I was trying to explain to somebody the other day, and this may or may not work, but I'm going to try and explain it anyway. If we think of a sequence of movements, a combination, as being like a short piece of music, you can play the whole thing, every single note, or you can hit the key notes and you will still know what you're playing.
I think there's a big advertising campaign about it. Learn 100 songs using 4 keys or something like that.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Yeah.
But those 4 notes are important notes, and they can be played in a multitude of ways. But yeah, so it doesn't necessarily, when you apply it, doesn't have to hit every single note, but the key notes, the important notes, do have to be hit. Same as when you do Keon, you have to hit certain points when you perform your Keon.
That's
so
a
when
good
you apply
analogy.
it, you've got to use the same principle.
So we're going into a seminar subject. That's the main reason why I wanted to talk to you.
Cool.
So on the 20th of October in Guildford, Sensei Don and I will be doing seminar. If you fancy coming in and have a look at what we're doing, drop me a message or just sign up through our website. But we see many people doing seminars. I've got few people asking me how did I get, because I'm kind of the newer one on the stage. How did I make the breakthrough? How did I get somewhat popular? And the answer is really just find your own unique voice. A lot of people saying that it's so saturated that there's no room for new people. I think that's kind of coming from their fear and kind of insecurities because it's something new. And I think that there's enough room for everybody, and we all might be doing similar stuff, but we've got our unique voices that differentiate us from the other people, and there will be a following to grab. What's your thoughts on that? How to find the unique voice?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important. Sometimes it takes a while to find your voice with this stuff. And I think that you have to be comfortable teaching what you teach, training the way you train. No one system suits everybody, but ultimately, all of us in karate are doing something very similar. We're using the same movement patterns pretty much. We're using those same pathways. We might be applying them different. We might have a different concept of distance. We might be sport-based. We might be classically inclined. And again, there's no reason you can't sort of bridge those gaps reasonably well, because at the end of the day, a rising block is a rising block, a low block is a low block, a front kick is a front kick, in its most basic terms. So we need to be aware of who we are as individuals. Don't try and teach in anyone else's particular style. Again, find the right method of training. But the way I train now at 62 is very different to how I was training when I was 32. But actually, I would say I probably train harder now than I did then, because I know more. I know more, so therefore my training is better, and hopefully that comes through in the way that I teach it as well. If you understand something, you need to be able to try and explain it in a fairly simple way. And also, I think as teachers, we need to be able to adapt stuff for the people that we teach. We need to be able to make those amendments, make little adjustments, or advise little adjustments, or help the people who train with us to get just a little bit more out of what it is that they're doing. I think, like your guys, most of my guys, all of my guys are they're of a certain age. We're all that little bit older in my dojo. We don't have any real youngsters, but they're all of an inquiring mind, and they like the technical aspect of it, but they also like the fact that it's functional from the point of view, or an application point of view. So that bodes well for them, because they like that analysis. You know, this thing about don't talk in the dojo, train. Well, a certain amount of talking has to be done for information to be passed across. We are training in an intelligent art, so therefore we should approach it intelligently. And to explain why we're trying to do something from a teacher's point of view, just from a safety aspect, if you're going to ask somebody to do a drill that it involves a neck crank, you have to explain to somebody the dangers of doing a neck crank. You can't just say, this is the drill we're doing, and leave it at that. They have to understand the underlying concepts behind the drill, behind the combination, behind the application. And therefore, they are better prepared to select an appropriate technique, let's say, if they ever find themselves in a situation where they need to use it.
And also, I think that, in relation to talking, it helps some people to process it. They might hear it, but they understand it better when they talk it through.
Yeah.
So you might have a couple, so I say to my guys, you can talk as much as you want, just don't take a piece, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have a problem that they communicate and try to explain to you, and somebody's going to be more advanced with it and try to bring the points that the other person didn't catch. So there have to be that open communication. And as well, if you don't talk, you cannot communicate to people, hey, I've got a broken knee, don't kick it there. You just shut up and train. Then nobody knows what's going on, and then you've got the miscommunications. And we actually had a miscommunication like that with one of my students who wear glasses. When he takes the glasses, he can't see anything. And we've been sparring, and he didn't want to be punched in the face. In a fervor of the sparring, I forgot and slapped him twice. So he got kind of a bit upset, understandably. But then we sort out that our communication wasn't on the right level, and we misunderstood each other, and we've got different goals for our training. So if we talked before, then wouldn't be a problem, right? So, but now it's all sorted and we're all happy. So
good. Yeah, communication is important because vast majority of people aren't training to compete. Most people are training because it's fun, it's a hobby, it's something that they enjoy to do that takes them away from the daily grind, gives them something to focus on, that maybe takes them away from the stresses and strains of their normal working and daily life. So that has to be taken into account. There's great ways to, if you want to train hard, great, train hard, but train intelligently, train sensibly. As we all are in martial arts, we've been doing it for a long time. We're all carrying some sort of injury or injuries. So therefore we have to train smarter, not just train harder.
For sure. So how did you get into the teaching seminars and workshops and
I when I first started teaching seminars, first one was I was asked to. I thought, okay, that sounds like fun. So I went and did a seminar, and I really enjoyed it. And what I think I enjoyed most is the format, because you've got a longer period of time. You know, we train, our class is an hour and a half.
Mm.
Seminars typically 3 hours to 3 or 4 hours. So it gives us more time. And the fact that we don't have to be not tied to a syllabus, but you know, obviously, if there's a syllabus and people want to learn and they want to grade, then they need to be well versed in their syllabus. So that means that your teaching in a class situation is a little bit more directed towards getting people where they need to be in the syllabus. With a seminar, you can take a much broader range of people, generally like-minded people, because they choose to be there, which is great. So you know that you know they're a willing audience straight away. But then you can work on a specific kata, or you can work on specific kion. You can find a common ground amongst all these different styles, against all these different shapes and sizes, amongst all these different levels of experience, and you can develop together. You know, so just by sharing ideas, it's not, you know, when you and I teach, it's not because we want the person to do it exactly the way we do it, but it's because we're saying to them, okay, I've found this works well for me. This is it's sound anatomically, the function moves smoothly, you can apply it, and you know you can have confidence that it can be applied. So we can share that information with somebody, and then what they'll do is they'll take that information, because most of what people learn on seminars, from my experience, they pick up ideas on the seminar, and then what they do is they practice that stuff later on. They take it away, they work with their training partners, they work in their dojo, or they train on their own, and they develop those ideas, and they help make those ideas their own. They come to life through their expression of the movement, rather than just blankly following somebody else's instructions. So that's why I enjoy seminars. It's that sharing of information, and generally it's a nice, friendly environment. So everyone's there because they want to be there, they want to learn, they want to train with each other, and it should be an uplifting experience going to a seminar.
Sure. Yeah, I think that people see that stuff, and then because you don't have access to the teacher, you're going in back to the dojo, and if you commit to apply and use those things you learn, they always are a little bit different, because the perception and the memory of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
movement changes. So it comes up, like you said, something unique, their interpretation of what was taught, instead of just a carbon copy of it.
yeah.
Um, and as well, with the seminars, it's always, I call it the seminar hypnosis, and the
Mm-hmm.
things we were showing it all usually works on a seminar, but not often it doesn't work when you take it to the dojo, because that the authority influence is wear off, and now you're thinking a little bit more clear. And I think everybody is like that, when we're going to somebody who we think is authority, it's kind of glorifying it, not in a negative way, but we always glorify it a little
Yeah.
bit.
Well, I mean, you want stuff to work, don't you?
Mm.
Generally, if you go to a seminar, it's not to see somebody fail; it's
Yeah.
to see somebody demonstrate techniques well, hopefully, something that can be applied, something that can be adopted, and something that can be developed. But I think that also what we see is that when people sometimes are too quick to give up on an exercise
Mm.
because they can't make it work, rather than actually analyze it and say, well, why isn't it working? We need to make sure that we have enough, build the skill level slowly, and then we can challenge it. Pressure testing is an interesting term, but I think anytime you're working against an opponent or working with a partner, there's an element of pressure testing to a
Mm.
technique, providing we understand that uki plays as much a part of the exercise as tori. So if they're not doing their job properly, then it's very hard for us to do our job properly. And
Yeah.
by that, I don't mean making things easy, but just if you're trying a technique, you want to make sure that it's the right technique. Um, we do most of our drills are based on the understanding that, okay, we're dealing with the lead hand, but if the lead hand's coming in, you know that that other hand's coming in shortly after. It's just setting up that backhand. Attacks are going to come in twos and threes. They're not going to come in ones. So we do it slowly at first, so people develop an understanding, comfort with that technique, but they know that if they stuff it up, the other hand's coming at them straight away.
Mm.
So they need to be able to deal with that, and that has to be part of the mindset. Is that, you know, we're doing a drill, but we understand what's happening is this person is role playing the attacker. They want to hit us, they want to hurt us, they want to get in and take that space. My job as a defender is to stop them doing that. And I do that with whatever drill it is that we're using at that particular point in time. But again, I think it's really easy to fall into the trap of just collecting a series of movements and saying, oh, this will be done against a rising block, or this will be done against a high punch, or this will be done against a front kick. But it's understanding that actually there's more flexibility than that. We're not just doing a sequence for the sake of doing a sequence. It's learning and developing those pathways. We have choices to make all the way through that confrontation. And that is influenced by what energy we receive from the opponent or from the training partner. So sometimes one path might be more relevant than another pathway, but we practice these different pathways, not as self-defense drills. Most of the stuff we do in the dojo is not self-defense training, it's body awareness training. It only becomes self-defense when we step outside of the dojo and we have to use it in the real world.
Yeah.
But by training in the dojo to better understand how we move and how the impact of our movement, what the impact our movement has on somebody else's movement, is going to help us in our understanding what's going to happen outside. So you can't ignore the mental side of training and just go for the physical. It has to be a combination of the two. You have to be able to understand the difference between a match fighting mentality and self-defense. There's a big gap between the two. There's certainly areas where they touch and sometimes even overlap, but they're a different animal. And so they can be trained alongside each other, but you have to understand why you're training and what you're training for, what you're trying to develop. And that only comes out of doing partner-based work. You can't do that without doing the partner-based work.
Yeah, I finding that going back to the good uke, that there's kind of two types of people. One are very, very compliant, and the other ones try to stop you for all costs.
Yes,
So
yeah.
the middle bit is the one what you're looking for. There's somebody who so when I'm training with my guys, I just try to like you said about the continuous attacks, but as well as reacting like you would react, right? If I
Yeah,
block you and I grab your arm, you're not just
yeah,
gonna be standing there and allowing me to do 12 moves. You're
yeah,
gonna either move that arm in some way or you're gonna try
yeah,
to punch me. So the responsiveness of your partner is very important.
yeah,
And as well, as you said, the people, it's a funny term, the pressure testing, because I think people misunderstand that.
yeah.
For me, I learned that from my wrestling coach that, you got different levels of that resistance. And you can have a playful one, you can have a serious one, and then you've got a competition level pressure testing when people
Yeah,
actually want to actively hurt you or win, not hurt you, but
yeah.
win.
And yeah, I think that also we see a problem with the use of pressure testing and non-compliance as being synonymous. But ultimately, non-compliance is just somebody being bloody awkward.
Yeah.
That isn't necessarily going to help anyone learn anything. Pressure testing is where you slowly evaluate and assess, and you increase the resistance as you go to give you a more realistic feel for the technique. And you find these points where maybe it starts to fail. So you take a step back down again and you start to build up again.
Mm.
When people introduce non-compliance without understanding the drill, then they're increasingly risky of injury to themselves and to the person they're working with. So that's not the name of the game. That's not what we're trying to achieve. What we're trying to do is improve our learning. So if we can get the partner work going and slowly increase levels of resistance as we go, not non-compliance, again, like you say, that's just somebody being awkward. If we're going to come in and do an exercise with somebody and they're just resistant, then you hit them somewhere else. You don't do the drill anymore, you hit them somewhere else.
I think that happens because there's not many people who explain this stuff. They just said, "Oh, resist," or "defend yourself," or "don't let him do it." But there's no actually explanation that this one you behaving with a little resistance. I often say to my guys, even in sparring, that if you feel that somebody's got a good position for a throw, don't resist it. Let them use that momentum, learn,
Yeah,
create a pathway. And then next time when they're doing it 10 times and they're feeling more confident with it, you can start resisting a little bit, right? So you
yeah,
all the time install that awareness of what's going on with other people and try and work together to get better instead of trying to prevent other people to get good at things, because that's kind of
yeah,
counterintuitive, right?
absolutely. Again, we're talking about a training partner, aren't we? You're
Mm,
working with a partner, and that means that we're trying to improve each other as we go. It's not a matter of winning. Sparring in the dojo is not a matter of winning. It's a matter of education. It's learning,
mm,
developing your skill base. It's trying things that you wouldn't necessarily try, see how they work with a partner. So it's not a match. Again, that's a very different mindset. In a
mm,
match, you're standing against somebody who wants to hurt you. When you're working with a training partner, you're not. You're training with somebody who wants you to develop. They want you to
mm.
improve. They want to improve. They want you to improve. There's a partnership there. And I think that needs to be made very clear. I keep on disappearing out of the screen here. Let me sit a little
Yeah,
bit further
that's right.
forward. Okay. I look like just a head floating in the middle of your dojo. Um, yeah, so I think we need to make sure that people understand the purpose of sparring is skill development.
Mm,
Uh, Sparring isn't fighting.
yeah.
Understand that sparring is not fighting. Um, Full contact training and sparring in the dojo is not self-defense. It's a great exercise,
Mm,
but it's not self-defense training. You've got two people who are reasonably equally skilled agreeing to fight in a certain way.
mm,
That's not self-defense. It's very good training, but it's not self-defense training.
mm,
Um, and as we said earlier on, or as I was saying earlier on, it's not that there's no overlap, because often there is an overlap, but there's also large parts that don't overlap, and we
mm.
have to be able to understand those and explain those when we train. Put that into practice and understand, as I said, put things where they need to be. Practice things that in the right context.
Mm. Going back to that you said about the winning, and we had a chat about it with Brian Bates from Zanshin Karate on our Karate for Mental Health seminar a couple of weeks ago. And I think this is the problem in karate, because karate, its mindset is of winning all the time, right? We see that everywhere. Oh, you must win, you must do that.
Yeah.
And people struggle with the concept of working together, because the mental, even when we do the games with Joe and Greg from Somerset Applied Karate, we've
Mm-hmm.
seen that competitiveness. It meant to be a
Yeah.
game,
Yeah.
but not on the basis that I must win. It was kind of cooperation game. But you see
Yeah.
that mentality that been installed, especially with those who coming from the like a sports side of martial arts, is that oh, I must win. Everything is a challenge instead of just being, this is a team building exercise. You don't
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
win.
Yeah, I mean, the trouble is, I'm not against being competitive. I think we have to be competitive to try and move forward, to grow and to develop. There's a certain element of competitiveness that needs to be inherent in that. Otherwise, you tend to coast. And if you want to
Mm,
get better at stuff, you've got somebody working alongside you who's a little bit fitter, a little bit faster, can kick a little bit higher. that gives you a bit of a push, a little bit of a drive. So there's an element of competitiveness that needs to be there for us to keep on striving to improve. But I don't think it wants to be the sole focus.
Mm.
It's not the primary focus. We are working on the idea of getting better at what we do. Yeah, for sure. We use other people as mentors and models as we go through our training, and those people will change. Our teachers are always in a position where we look up to them, and we aspire. But I think that so I'm not against having a certain element of competitiveness there. I think there needs to be some competitiveness, but I think if we're looking at sparring, it is a skill development exercise.
Mm.
And it introduces elements of chaos. So I think sparring is a good exercise from the point of view of that, because if all you're doing is partner-based drills, you can fall into the trap of being very scripted.
Mm-hmm.
But once you start to free spar, that script is pretty much thrown out the window.
Yeah.
So I think you have to do some of these. You have to do all of these things. If you just sparring, not doing partner work is silly. Just doing partner work and not doing any sort of sparring exercises again is equally silly. Just doing applications from your kata without doing the form is, in my opinion, equally daft, because the kata is the template. That is our toolbox. We take the stuff out of the toolbox to work on it, and then we can pop it back in again when it's done. So what we do with the first 5 kata, for example, is I break them down into functional sections. So when people start to learn the kata, they don't learn the kata as a whole. They learn the kata in parts, and then they have to put the kata together at the end of it. So it gives them the chance to have that process of going through the mechanics of, say, for example, the first 3 moves of Pinan, Nidan, Heian, Shodan. Then they'll apply those moves. And then they'll do the next 3-4 moves, and then they'll apply those moves. So by the time they get to having covered the whole kata, they've applied most, if not all, of the kata. And then, okay, now the exercise is to put all those bits together into the form as was originally meant to be performed.
Out of interest, how many katas do you have in your system?
15.
15. Is that
Yeah.
not too much? Or do you focusing on everything equally, or you're choosing and pick and choose for people?
Well, the pinans we use as kata that underpin everything else. So if they start with the pinans, it gives them a foundational movement. Then we go into Naihanchi, which gives them the core development and the power generation. And then they move on through from there. By the time we get into the other kata, they might be using their pinans as a warm-up, and then they'll be going on to their grade-specific kata. I think we're quite lucky having only 15, because some of the styles have tons.
Yeah, we started with 18. Now we've got a 13. But as the students progress, I'm dropping down. So we're starting with pinans like yourself. But then by the black belt, and they choose one pinan they specialize in, plus 2 different kata, plus Saiyanshin. So they got 4 katas. After second dan, they choose 3 higher kata, and that's their focus of study with 1 deep study. So we kind of dropping them off, using them as a tools to learn how to break the applications, and kind of introductions to kata, and then more complex stuff. And
I wouldn't know where to start thinking about dropping kata out. So I tend to work with what we've got, but I don't think all kata suit all people. But I don't think that's particularly a size bias thing. I think it's actually more to do with the fact that certain movement patterns suit certain people better. I've found that over the years, Naihanchi is generally my go-to kata. I love it. It's very short, very dynamic, brutal, but also beautiful in its simplicity.
Hmm.
So I find it a really good source kata. I think that it underpins a lot of what we do as well because of the power development element of it. It shows us how to use the legs and waist properly, which um, is a standout, I think, for the
Hmm.
form. So it it informs every other kata. Once you've covered that base, it informs every other kata that you do. And the nice thing is that you can always work to improve it.
Mm.
You know, no matter how often you do it, you can always work to improve it.
Yeah, that's the beauty
Um,
of the kata,
yeah.
I think. So I learned through the years that the best way to choose the kata is that which resonates with people, like you just said, because you're feeling it the best,
Mm.
you put more attention into it. If you like Naihanchi and I told you now you need to do Tensho forever,
Yeah.
that wouldn't work for you, wouldn't it? So kind
No,
of
that's it. Yeah.
people's personality give you indication which kata works for them because they naturally would know that, oh, I can kick high, then I'm gonna do a Kyokushin version of Pinans where you kick above your head, right?
Hmm.
So kind of that's how I'm using to choose the stuff. Just tell me which one you like the best. 10, you tell me
Yeah.
which one are the best, and then you focus on them because there's more chance you're gonna go in
Yeah.
depth into them
Yeah. I
instead
think
of me
that's the
forcing you.
thing. I agree with you completely. I think if you, whatever number of kata you have in your system, you learn the fundamentals of all those kata. I mean, I think it's the old adage was if you know one kata, you know them all.
Mm,
Or if you understand one kata, you understand them all. It doesn't mean you can apply them all, but you understand the principles of one kata. You can apply those principles to every other kata that you do. But I think you pick and choose out of the
mm,
kata that we do. Some will resonate, some won't. Pick two or three and work on those. But you can't pick those two or three unless you have the 15 to choose from.
mm,
So for me, I would feel I was doing a disservice to my people if I say, okay, these are the ones you should work on. These are the kata. Out of those kata, what do you feel like you could work on?
mm.
So give them all, let them choose.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it with the kata. What would you, from a point of view coaching, when I started doing seminars, it was a lot of things that I thought I'm going to be better at, and it took me some time to let go of a idea that I'm going to be perfect on the first session and trying to copy other people and through that you're finding that your unique voice. What maybe advice would you give to people to focus on to become a better teachers, but do not lose themselves? The reason I'm asking because we had Bobby Coates who done first seminar ever with
Mm,
us on the karate for mental health, and I've got 4 or 5 other people who asking very similar questions, how to start, what to do, and so on.
yeah.
So I thought that having somebody more experienced like yourself, maybe you've got some things to say.
Um, well, the first thing I would say, as far as I'm concerned, and this isn't necessarily going to work for everybody, is have a plan, but don't feel you have to stick to it.
Mm,
Be flexible in your approach when you're teaching. If you're working on something that really isn't gelling with the people you're teaching, move on to something else. Forget it, move on.
mm,
Go on, do something else with them. Because they will lose interest. If all you're doing is giving them stuff that they can't do,
mm,
then they're going to lose interest. They're going to stop paying attention, and it's just going to deteriorate from there. So unless there is a specific purpose you've got in mind for you working through that technique, if it's not working, then we just need to say cheerio to that and move on. So have a plan. Be prepared to be flexible enough to adapt that plan on the fly.
mm,
Also, work the room. The good thing about seminars is that you've got 20 or 30 people in the room. That's only going to give you 10 or 15 pairs. You can get
mm.
around those 15 pairs and try and give a little bit of time to everybody.
Mm.
Um,
I
and I
will
think
just
that
add, go on.
no, you go for it.
So I will add that, don't afraid to. fail, because there
Yeah,
will be things that there's gonna go wrong, and is like everything is a process of learning. So which each seminar just assess what you've done, what went wrong, what I can improve, and
yeah.
don't be afraid of it.
I think also if somebody's doing their first seminar, is turn around and tell them it's actually quite tiring teaching a seminar.
Mm,
Until they do it, they probably don't realize how fatiguing it is because you've got to stay on the ball.
mm,
You're going around people. It's hard work, so you've got to stay physically and mentally alert
mm,
for extended periods of time, and it's
mm.
knackering,
Yeah, it
but it's
is. It
fun.
is.
It's fun.
Well, it's like,
Yeah,
hard work is usually rewarding, right? You put the
yeah, yeah.
effort in it, and then you see the results of it, and you're happy.
Well, when you're teaching something and somebody gets it, that's brilliant.
Mm,
I don't think there's any better feeling than that. Than somebody
mm,
seeing that light bulb moment where somebody goes, "Oh yeah, I understand that now."
mm,
And that that's not because people come to seminars generally have in their whatever they do, they have a reasonable level of skill. It could range from novice to senior. So they could be very good at what they do, but they're putting themselves on the line to do something different to what they're
mm,
used to doing. Point of going on a seminar is not to do the same thing over and over again that you do in the dojo day in, day out. It's to get a slightly different view of it.
mm,
And that takes courage, I think, to go on the mat, particularly if you're a senior grade, to go on the mat and train with people. Say, okay, well, I'm going to put my beginner's hat on again here, and I'm prepared to suck at this
mm,
until I get it. I think is a really big thing, and I admire that. I think we should all be doing that on a reasonably regular basis.
mm. Question that I started to ask after my conversation with Sensei Mark House. Um, if you could use as little words as possible to describe your core principles and values, what would that be?
Core principles and values in
So
fewer words as possible.
somebody goes to your dojo, and you need to communicate with them only with few words what your system is about. It might be in home. So for example, if for us after distillation and everything, we have a plaque at home that kids see, it's strong and caring. I think that explains everything, right?
Yeah, good. I'd say
What would
be
be yours?
mindful. Be
Be mindful.
mindful.
Can you explain?
Yeah, be mindful of yourself. Don't overstep. Be mindful of other people's. Respect their space.
Beautiful.
That's
What's
it, I
new?
think.
That's great. What's the new on the front of your seminars, and give us some snippets, details, so people can book in and join in,
Yeah,
buy.
I'm actually looking at putting some dates together for next year now. There's a few sort of in the pipeline. Talking about doing another one with Mary Stevens next year, John Johnson as well. We've already, I think we've got a date tentatively booked. I can't remember what it is, but we're going to do that again. Want to continue working with you. I think we work really well together. You're a
Mhm.
good guy, good friend, and an excellent martial artist. So it's just nice to get on the mat with you. It's nice to sit and chat with you. Um, Other than that, I'm going to do some solo ones as well. Whether Ian's around for, I know Ian's impossible to tie down. We
Yeah.
got Vince coming over, hopefully around to April May time of next year. We still got to tie the dates down, but that'd be really good if you can come over for that. And then got one in November, which is 24th of November up at Hayward Heath Dolphin Leisure Centre. That's going to be good fun. We're looking at the kinetic chain,
Mhm.
how to generate power. Um, yeah, so there's quite a few things in the offing, but there's not a lot of fixed dates at this point in time. But as they come up, I'll be putting them up on social media. I'll
Mm.
continue filming the syllabus. That will hopefully be finished fairly soon. So that will go up online as well.
And you've got your
Um,
courses and stuff on your website, right? Everything's on your website.
yeah, that will go up on the website. Still busy writing the book. which originally was going to be finished by the end of January. It might be a little bit later now, but you know, things being as things be, the other things happen.
Yeah,
So things have slowed down a bit.
my book meant to be published in August, and I'm still nowhere near. So
But you're still way ahead of me. At least you got some already out there. I've been
yeah.
tentatively working on this book for ages.
Mm.
It's always been an idea at the back of the head, but I actually only started physically writing it a few months back. So we'll see how that goes. But
Really
that's a good
looking for.
process in itself.
Yeah, really looking forward to reading it.
Cool, good. I'll send you a copy when it's ready
Ah,
to
thank you.
proofread. You can proofread it for me.
It would be a pleasure. Hey Don, thank you very much for your time, and I will see you on next Sunday. Oh,
Yeah,
following
see.
Sunday.
Yeah,
Following
following Sunday.
Sunday,
See you on 20th.
20th.
So, guys, if you're listening to this and it's not gone past the 20th of October, sign up and come and join us. We're going to have fun with Naihanchi and Tensho.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Take
Speak to you
care.
soon.
Speak to
Bye.
you later. Bye.